Here's your KNDY updated weatherology forecast for northeast Kansas and southeast Nebraska. I'm staff meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Slight chance for scattered storms today, otherwise sunshine mixed with clouds at times. Highs level off around 57, winds out of the west 10 to 15 miles per hour. Clear skies tonight, lows level off around 33. I'm staff meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Right now, it's 52 degrees.
Kansas Mid-America Network News. I'm Andy Hoosier. The U.S. Department of Agriculture's Emergency Livestock Assistance Program has been activated for producers who suffered losses during the December of 2021 Paradise wildfire that occurred in Russell, Osborne, and Ellis counties across the state of Kansas. KSN News reports that the USDA's Emergency Livestock Assistance Program helps cover the losses that were suffered by farmers and ranchers when the wildfires struck the stockpiled winter forage for the livestock. In a statement from U.S. Senator Roger Marshall, he said, quote, "The Paradise Fire destroyed property, livestock, and feed. Our team made it a top priority to see that our farmers and livestock owners are properly compensated for losses outside of their control. We are proud of our work to secure this relief funding for these counties so the impacted landowners can move forward and rebuild." In other news, the Kansas Department of Health and Environment says that there is a shortage of certain vaccines that are necessary, as the Emporia Nonprofit Health Center says they have the shortage of a vaccine necessary for children to be able to attend to school.
There's more at Seven Clans First Council Casino and Resort. Cash giveaways during the month of November. $2,500 in cash given away in random rewards every Tuesday. Earn entries for cash giving every Thursday in November to win your part of $10,000 in cash. And Saturdays, take your shot at our $20,000 progressive rollover drawing with a grand prize to be given away on November 30th. Seven Clans First Council Casino and Resort is your home for life-changing jackpots. Highway 77 in Newkirk, where the winners play.
Fox Sports. Fox Kansas is Wichita's home for exciting live sports action. Kick off your weekend with Fox College Football Friday as UCLA and Washington go head-to-head at 8. Saturday gets started with Fox Big Noon kickoff at 9. Then college football with Utah and Colorado at 11, followed by Nebraska and USC at 3. And Week 11 in the NFL has the Green Bay Packers and Chicago Bears going head-to-head in an NFC battle Sunday at noon. Fox Sports. Fox Kansas. Channel 24. Cox Cable Channel 4.
With the ongoing aviation strike with the company of Boeing, the company in the state of Kansas known as Spirit Aerosystems has announced that they have, quote, substantial doubt about their ability to continue to open their doors. And the company of Boeing says they're willing to help. As KSN News reports that as of Tuesday, Spirit Aerosystems announced that Boeing would be committed to paying $350 million in advance payments, as the agreement calls for Spirit to produce Boeing's products at the rate required by Boeing.
Boeing needs them so badly. It's not like they can replicate all the machines and workers that create the barrel of their most profitable program anytime. So Boeing has no choice.
That audio from KSN News, as the deal includes Spirit Aerosystems being able to repay Boeing at a 25% advance starting on April 30th of 2026, followed by another payment on June 30th of the same year, followed by September 30th and December 31st of 2026. The companies continue to struggle with the ongoing strikes from the machinist unions nationwide. Mid-America Network News.
Ever thought about what kind of curveballs Mother Nature might throw our way? Don't worry, Blue Valley Insurance is here to lend a hand. Whether it's hailstorms damaging your crops or strong winds causing trouble, our crop insurance has got you covered. It provides compensation for crop loss due to damaging weather conditions like hail, and we offer wind coverage too. Swing by one of our Blue Valley Insurance locations in Lynn, Greenleaf, Hanover, or Marysville.
Nebraska, Mid-America Network News. I'm Andy Hoosier. The University of Nebraska says they are hosting listening sessions to help seek input from students, faculty, and staff, along with community members, on what qualities they'd like to see in their next chancellor for the University of Nebraska in Kearney. KNOP News reports that the university is looking for that new chancellor, as they say participants will be able to share what attributes they'd like to see from their new chancellor and ask the University of Nebraska and their committee different questions for the chancellor during the screening process. According to the university, all these sessions will be taking place at the UNK Regional Engagement Center inside room 20, with the next meeting set for November 18th at 3 p.m., 5 p.m., and 7 p.m., with November 19th at 9 a.m., 10:30 a.m., and at noon. The search for the new chancellor comes after the former chancellor, Doug Kirstensen, had announced his retirement. You can also go to the university's website for the process of finding the new leader. Mid-America Network News.
Every great sandwich should start with a great bread, which is why Mrs. Baird's puts as much care and pride into baking wholesome and delicious breads as you put into every sandwich. From toasted whole grains to natural honey and molasses, Mrs. Baird's breads are made from only the best stuff to fuel you and your family. So whether it's PB&J on whole grain white or turkey and Swiss on honey 7 grain, Mrs. Baird's has a delicious, nutritious bread to build it on. Mrs. Baird's, baking breads that taste great since 1908.
Reporting local news, I'm Bruce Dierking. Additional details on a police chase that ended in Blue Rapids with an arrest by local authorities November 8th. The incident began late the evening before with a break-in at Dick's Sporting Goods and Walmart in Manhattan with shotgun shells reported stolen. An hour later, a report of a stolen vehicle was received from Collins Lane in Manhattan. A woman suspected her grandson, 23-year-old Andrew Franklin, in the incident. He also reportedly took a cell phone and a handgun. At 2:20 a.m., a Marshall County deputy got identified the vehicle and began pursuit. The vehicle was abandoned in Blue Rapids, and the suspect fled on foot. Several hours later, he was seen walking by the city pool by a local resident who notified officers on the perimeter. They converged on the subject with the help of a police helicopter, were able to find the suspect hiding in the brush. Andrew Franklin was arrested November 8th around 6:30 a.m. and faces potential charges including burglary, criminal damage to property, aggravated robbery, and aggravated burglary. Bond has been set at $250,000 and Franklin was jailed. The Veterans Memorial Wall at the National Guard Armory in Marysville American Legion is being rebuilt by a group of volunteers. The initial installation was deteriorating and many of the original plaques had fallen off. Those are being replaced, and the originals are available for pickup to anyone interested and are laying outside and inside the memorial. Washington County Public Works advises a 4-way stop north of the Washington County High School at North D and 18th Road now has stop signs only on the east and west with temporary barricades until the public gets used to the arrangement. The 4-way stop was put in place when B Street was resurfaced and the route was used as a detour. Correction to our earlier announcement, canvass of general election ballots in Marshall County will be Thursday morning, November 14th, 9 a.m. at the county courthouse. Marshall County Health Department continues flu vaccine outreach clinics Thursday the 14th at the Frankfort Nutrition Site, 9 to 11 a.m., and Vermilion Community Center, 11:30 until 1. Flu vaccines for anybody 6 months and older, plus blood pressure measurements. For information, contact the Health Department at 785-562-3485. Thursday Soup Days continue in November, serving November 14th at St. Gregory's Catholic Church and November 21st at Mount Calvary Lutheran Church. Your news on your time. Podcast of the morning and midday news blocks available Monday through Fridays on our website at KNDYradio.com under the podcast tab and on our social media. June P. Vitash, age 92, of Odell, passed away Saturday. Funeral service Saturday, 10 a.m. at the Odell United Methodist Church. Burial in the Odell Czech Cemetery. Visitation Friday, 11 until 8. Family will greet friends Friday from 5:30 until 7 at the Fox Funeral Home of Beatrice, in charge of arrangements for June Vitash. Arlo D. Richter, age 93, of Barnes, passed away Sunday. Funeral service Saturday, 11 a.m. at Fancy Creek Church south of Barnes. Burial Zion Fancy Creek Cemetery. Visitation Friday, noon until 8 at the Christy Anders Funeral Home in Waterville, in charge of arrangements for Arlo Richter. Donnie R. Don Wilkinson, age 72, of Hanover, passed away November 10th. Memorial services planned Tuesday, 2 p.m. at the Christian Church in Barnes. Private interment at Pine Hill Cemetery north of Barnes at a later date. Visitation Monday, 5 until 7 p.m. at the Christy Anders Funeral Home in Waterville, in charge of arrangements for Don Wilkinson. On the Marshall County Senior Citizens lunch menu today, breaded fish, scalloped potatoes, asparagus, and plums.
Tomorrow, a pimento cheese sandwich, tomato soup, Normandy blend, fruit cocktail, and a cookie. Marysville Mayor Todd Fry will be a guest on the party line this morning. Join the conversation 9:40 until 10 a.m. on KNDY AM 1570 FM 94.1.
With United Bank and Trust online banking, you have access to your hometown bank 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year at ubankonline.com. You can view account balances, access statements, and transfer money between your UBT accounts. You can also view account activity, pay bills, and even make loan payments without being limited by banking hours. Simply visit ubankonline.com to learn more. Online banking with United Bank and Trust. It's banking for your way of life. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Here's your KNDY weatherology forecast for northeast Kansas and southeast Nebraska. Some scattered showers and thunderstorms are possible early on today, then mostly cloudy with our highs in the upper 50s and lower 60s. Southwest winds between 10 and 15 and gusting as high as 40. Mostly clear skies overnight tonight with our lows in the upper 20s and lower 30s. Northwest winds between 5 and 10 and gusting as high as 35. Sunny throughout Thursday with our highs in the lower 60s. And clear skies throughout Thursday night with our lows in the mid to upper 30s. Sunshine throughout the day on Friday with our highs in the lower to mid 60s. Southeast winds between 5 and 15 and gusting as high as 25. And partly cloudy skies on a Friday night with our lows in the mid to upper 40s. South winds around 10 miles per hour and gusting as high as 25. Breezy on Saturday, mostly sunny with our highs in the mid to upper 60s. South winds between 10 and 15 and gusting as high as 30. Then mostly cloudy skies throughout Saturday night with our lows in the mid 30s and lower 40s. Rain showers are possible into Sunday, otherwise mostly cloudy with our highs in the mid to upper 50s. Then more rain throughout Sunday night with our lows in the mid to upper 30s. I'm meteorologist Kara Foster.
Average high temperature, mid-November, 56. Record high on this date, 80. The average low, 33, and the record low, 1 degree. Sunset this evening, 5:14. Sunrise in the morning, 7:09. Mostly light amounts, just trace amounts here at the studio. Precipitation with a brief thunderstorm overnight. Overcast and a milder 52 degrees this hour. And that's a check of the morning news and weather for this Wednesday, the 13th of November. KNDY News Time, 7:15. I'm Bruce Dierking reporting.
Hi, this is Morgan Reed. Medicare annual enrollment is October 15th through December 7th. This is the time of year you can change your prescription drug plan, switch from Original Medicare to a Medicare Advantage plan, or switch from a Medicare Advantage plan back to Original Medicare. As your local agent, I can help enroll you in a plan that fits your needs. My goal is to assist our community in making sure that everyone has access to the proper type of health coverage. Find your coverage your way with Reed Insurance.
Gracious hosts, but it's not like they're going to let them win. Good morning, I'm Jay Reynolds. Klay Thompson returning to the Bay Area last night. He and the Mavericks were up 7 with 4.5 minutes to play, but then Steph Curry went on a tear for Golden State. A personal 10-0 run, and the Warriors rally to beat Dallas 120-117. Curry finishes with 37.
Just trying to make plays. Like, we saw a certain read where we could get a matchup that I like, and whether they're trying to shoot a three or get downhill. Lanes and shots open up, and thankfully they went in. So don't let anybody forget what Draymond did on this end of the floor, playing the 5 against their size. As many plays I made down there, he made the same amount on this end. So it was a masterclass.
Klay Thompson had 22 in his return in a loss for Dallas. Joel Embiid makes his season debut for the Sixers. It comes in a 12-point loss to the Knicks. Embiid, 13 points in his 26 minutes, admitting that he was timid. His coach, Nick Nurse, says there was definitely rust. Sixers fall to 2-8. Miami loses in overtime to Detroit. Heat coach Eric Spoelstra hit with a technical with 1 second to go in OT. In a tie game, he had called a timeout when the Heat didn't have any to use. Hawks stunned the Celtics. Boston went in as a 15.5-point favorite. Suns beat the Jazz. They're now 9-2. Blazers snapping a 3-game losing streak with a 122-108 win over Minnesota. Magic 114-89 winners over the Hornets. Latest college football rankings, 4 of the top 5 teams from the Big Ten. Texas crashing the party, in there at number 3. Georgia and Miami, the 2 big losers this past weekend. Hurricanes fall to number 9. Bulldogs now at number 12. College hoops, Kentucky was down by as many as 10. They pull out a 5-point win over Duke at the Champions Classic in Atlanta. Top-ranked Kansas beating Michigan State 77-69. Bill Self moving past Fog Allen, and Self is now the winningest coach in Kansas history.
When you hear Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, you probably think of larger-than-life balloons and show-stopping performers. But this year, for the first time, you should also think of incredible deals, because Macy's is counting down to the big day with our first ever parade of deals happening now. We have big savings on gifts, like 25 to 40% off sweaters and fleece. And every day, find new deals online all the way through the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
It's the most wonderful time of the year on Pluto TV. Get all your holiday favorites absolutely free. Cozy up with festive classics like Bad Santa 2 and Scrooged to get you in the holiday spirit. Plus heartwarming movies from Lifetime and Hallmark Movies and more holiday favorites. Explore entire channels guaranteed to spread the cheer with bright lights, festive fireplaces, and the holiday music you love. We've got something for everyone. Season's greetings from Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.
ABC News, Wall Street now. Investors hoping for a rebound today after the Dow, NASDAQ, and S&P all finished lower in Tuesday trading. Likely to influence the market today, October's Consumer Price Index, expected to show inflation rose 2.6% in October, up from 2.4% in September. In the week since he became president-elect, Donald Trump ally, billionaire Elon Musk's net worth soared by a reported near $50 billion. The jump largely attributed to Musk's stake in Tesla, which saw a 16% price increase to a whopping $330 a share since election night. Food giant Kraft Heinz is pumping the brakes on a planned prepackaged Lunchable meal kit rollout targeting American schools looking to save on labor costs in the kitchen. But the turkey and cheese and pizza Lunchable kits drew criticism from nutrition advocates, and ultimately the company said the demand just was not there. Richard Cantu, ABC News.
Good Wednesday morning. Sam Speck with your latest market information here on the Mid-America Ag Network. Well, before we get the day started, let's get you a quick recap of how things finished up yesterday. Well, through the grains and oilseeds, it was a much lower day yesterday, as we saw quite a bit of red pretty much across the board. However, in contrast to that, the livestock was mostly higher, green pretty much across the board. We'll start in the cattle markets as December live cattle finished up 70 cents to 184.40. February up 75 to 186.12. Feeder cattle also saw some pretty significant gains, especially in the later contracts. November feeders up 67 to 246.82. January up $1.32 to 243.57. And the hogs were higher. December lean hogs up 57 to 82.35. February up 40 cents at 86.32. All right, let's dive through the overnight pre-trade session again. Yesterday through the grains and oil seeds, it was a day that was worse for wear as it was lower pretty much across the board, especially the wheat market. And the wheat market continues on that downward trend. Chicago, Spring, and Kansas City wheat here through the overnight pre-trade session, all a few cents lower. December Kansas City wheat down 3 at 543.5. March is down 3 1/4 to 557.5%. Oats are also down for a consecutive day. December oats down 5 3/4 to 339.25 cents. Into the row crops now. It's kind of choppy two-sided trade for corn. Minimal movement, but December corn is up 1/4 cent to 428 3/4. March up 1/2 to 440 3/4 cents. The later contracts are a bit lower. Mixed in the soybeans as well, as we see January beans down 1/4 cent at 10.10 1/4. March down 1/2 at 10.22 a bushel, and then again 1/4 cent movement in the later months, both mixed higher and lower. Soybean meal is down 140 at 291.50. Soy oil down 30 at 45.93, and cotton down 6 at 68.71. This morning in the metals, gold up an 1140 mark at 26.1770. Silver's up 26 cents to 31.02 per ounce, and the dollar index after a big spike yesterday down 14 to 105.81.
From Kansas State University, this is Agriculture Today. I'm Jacob Clout. A new bill has been introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives called the Farm Act, or Farm Assistance and Revenue Mitigation Act, which will provide emergency relief to crop growers as a result of low prices in 2024. K-State and Washburn law professor Roger McOwen explains how payments will be calculated.
The farmers' payments will be based on what they actually planted for 2024. So, for example, if I put in 1,000 acres of corn this year and 1,000 acres of soybeans, then the payment's going to be based on 1,000 acres of corn and 1,000 acres of soybeans. So it's not based solely on base acres in the program. Plus, I'd also be eligible for an additional 50% of the acres that were prevented from being planted. So it's got a prevented planting component to it also. And I think the really nice feature of the bill is that the Congress has told USDA how to calculate the payments. They have specified the formula. And what they do is they take USDA's projected cost of the crop, subtract off national projected returns, and then whatever that result is, they multiply it by eligible acres, and then times 60%, and that's your total payment.
He shares how much money will be allocated to the Farm Act and payment estimations for major crops and growers.
About $20 billion, and of that amount, corn would likely be about $6 billion, and soybeans would be about $2.5 billion. They are estimating, according to that formula right now, that a producer would get $103 per acre for corn, $48 for soybeans, $82 per acre for wheat. Cotton's $208, rice is $74, and sorghum is $85 per acre. Now, oats is $181 per acre. That's kind of incredible, and barley's $3 per acre.
McOwen outlines payment limits and how business type impacts eligibility.
There is a per-person, per-entity limitation, and that's $175,000. Now, ARC or PLC, by comparison, the payment limit is $125,000 per person. So this is $50,000 higher per person, so a separate payment limit. And for individuals as well as entities that don't limit liability, the limit is on a per-person basis. And if you're in an entity that does your farming operation, such as a C corporation or an S corporation or an LLC, then it's at the entity level. So if I got 4 members, for example, of a general partnership, and I'm large enough such that we could each be eligible for a payment of $175,000, that would total $700,000 worth of payments under the Farm Act. But if I'm in an LLC and I have 4 members of the LLC, we'd each have to split the $175,000. So instead of getting $700,000, we'd get $175,000. So it makes a difference as to how you're organized.
That was K-State and Washburn law professor Roger McOwen on the Farm Assistance and Revenue Mitigation Act. I'm Jacob Clout. This has been Agriculture Today over the K-State Radio Network.
The Manhattan Commission Company, Manhattan, Kansas, will be holding a special stock cow, bred heifer, and breeding bull sale Wednesday, November 13th, starting on the cow-calf pairs at 11 a.m. We will have 300 mostly black, white face, and red Angus cows, 3 to 8 years old, with 30 to 90-day-old calves. Spring-bred heifers include 70 black, 59 white face, and 20 Hereford first calf heifers, bred to low birth weight bulls for February-March calves. Bred cows consist of 200 black, white face, and red cows, mostly 3 to 6 years old, bred to Angus and Hereford bulls for February to April calving. There will be 75 heavy-bred cows. They're calving now. They'll be 3 to 6 years old, bred to Hereford and Angus bulls. Breeding bulls offered will include 11 Angus, 1 Sim Angus, 1 Horned Hereford, 3 Polled Hereford. They'll all be 18 to 24 months of age and ready for heavy service. For more information on a special cow sale to be held Wednesday, November 13th, starting at 11 o'clock a.m. at the Manhattan Commission Company, please call 800-834-1029 or check our website at mcclivestock.com.
We're not sure if there's a good reason to feel anxious about superstitions, but anxieties are real, even if irrational. A closer look today from the Old Farmer's Almanac.
If you're a farmer or rancher, chances are you've thought about joining Kansas Farm Bureau. So, what's stopping you? Your membership gives you access to the state's largest and most influential advocacy organization, the Voice of Agriculture in Topeka, Washington, D.C., and counties across the state. You'll also be helping build strong, prosperous communities through agriculture advocacy and education. Join us today. Visit kfb.org/farmer-rancher to learn more.
In August of last year, Kansan Audra Clark was involved in a motor vehicle accident. While she only suffered some bumps and bruises, scan results indicated she had 2 masses on her brain. She is the single mother of 4 beautiful children, and her quest continues to become a registered nurse. We ask for your prayers for Audra, and if you would, please donate to assist her in this medical fight. Visit Audra Support Squad on Facebook. That is Audra Support Squad. Again, Audra Support Squad. This message of support is organized by Justin Clark and Lindsay Meyer. With more practical tips and useful advice, this is the Old Farmer's Almanac Radio Report for Wednesday, November 13th, the 318th day of the year. TV host Jimmy Kimmel has a birthday, and Benjamin Franklin penned the phrase, "Nothing is certain but death and taxes," on this day in 1789. Phobias are often defined as irrational fears. Most of us carry around at least 1 or 2. Insects, heights, public speaking, and closed spaces, for example, might send us into a state of near panic. Even if there is little chance of harm, the mental anxiety is real. Why do we have them? Some are the result of traumatic experiences, but scientists believe that most of us have genetic traits that predispose us to certain phobias.
Here's the good news. The vast majority of phobias can be overcome by using exposure therapy, or gradual exposure until the fear is diminished. That's the Old Farmer's Almanac Radio Report. Learn more at almanac.com.
728 from KNDY. 52 degrees this hour to cloudy overcast. Cooler temps on the high side in the upper 50s today. Rumble of thunder or two overnight. Just light amounts, trace amounts here at the studio of precipitation.
Kansas Mid-American Network Sports. I'm Andy Hoosier. The Kansas Jayhawks basketball team remains in the number one position according to the Associated Press's top 25 for men's college basketball around the nation for a regular season after the weekend victory that they had with their matchup against the basketball Blue Bloods, with Gonzaga and Auburn cracking the top 5 as well for the Associated Press's top 25. And their impressive opening weekend wins. Overall, the Jayhawks went into this week receiving 44 of the 62 first-place votes after a home game win against North Carolina on Saturday last week, winning 92-89. The Jayhawks are coming off their game last night as well against the Michigan State Spartans, with their next game coming up on Saturday at home against Oakland. In Kansas State basketball, they have their next tip-off coming up tomorrow night as they take on LSU at home for game number 3 of the regular season. They're coming off their big victory against Cleveland State, 77-64 on Saturday last week. Tomorrow night's tip-off is at 8 p.m. Kansas Mid-American Network Sports.
You're tuned in to the TVL Rundown, a comprehensive weekly look at the athletics inside the Twin Valley League. The TVL Rundown is a service of B&D Buildings in Axtell and the Citizens National Bank in Greenleaf.
B&D Buildings of Axtell specializes in post-frame buildings. Give them a call for stud-frame buildings with complete concrete and electrical work included. It's one call to get the job done. B&D Buildings, specializing in post-frame building construction, plus repairs and more. Always free estimates. Give them a call. B&D Buildings of Axtell, 785-294-0147. B&D Buildings at 785-294-0147.
Another reason to make the Citizens National Bank your bank. With a century of experience, you know you can count on us for convenient banking and personal service for people you know and trust. With extended hours and online banking for all your financial needs. Another reason to make the Citizens National Bank your bank.
Welcome into the TVL Rundown. As we get closer to the end of the high school football season, we will be taking a look at area teams, how they did in round 2 action last Friday night. 5 of the 6 TVL area teams advanced to a sectional round. This Friday, we're going to start with the Axtell Eagles as they just roll past Rural Vista 54-0 last Friday. I think, Jeff, you made a good point. That game was tied until Axtell kicked off.
It was just all Axtell in this ball game. How often have we said this? It's just absolutely incredible what they're doing right now. You know, I want to recap this Axtell game. I always try to focus on what has gone on in the game, but it's starting to get so repetitive. Axtell scored, Axtell scored, Axtell scored. It's incredible what they do. It's a well-oiled machine, and they're sneaking up on 50 straight wins now. That's a mind-blowing number.
And I think an interesting matchup. They take on Osborne, who is 7-3 now on the year. Of course, a state power. They've been in a down year the last couple. But looking at the top side of this 8-man Division II bracket, a game that we will have on KNDY FM 95.5 is our Marysville Dental Care Game of the Week. The Frankfort Wildcats coming off a very big 46-0 win at Martin Valley last Friday night. They will take on undefeated and probably, as many are calling it, the second-best team in 8-man Division II in Burlingame. That's 10-0 on the season. And Jeff, I know you put out an interesting stat earlier today or yesterday about the offense versus the defense in this game coming up.
The thing that I really focused on was the Frankfort defense. Right now, they're only allowing 18 points per game. Burlingame is only allowing 13 points per game. So something has to give in this one. What offense can break down the opposing defense? Because we're not going to see 18-13 games. We're going to see high numbers by someone, maybe by both. one defense is eventually going to have to give, and we just have to hope here that it's not the Frankfort Wildcats.
Now, moving to Class 1A, we're going to start with the Centralia Panthers. They come up with a big victory over Olpe last Friday, 40-26. Head coach Roger Holthouse, in his third year, has his team 9-1 as they take on St. Mary's Colgan Friday night at Pittsburgh. I think what's interesting about this is a matchup that knocks Centralia out of the playoff bracket. I can't remember if it was last year or 2 years ago, but some familiarity between these two teams over the last handful of years.
Oh, without a doubt. If you're looking at non-league games, one of the most frequent between these two, and they know each other. It's like a pair of boxers that have been in the ring way too many times against each other. They know when the left hook is coming. They know when the right jab is coming. It's going to be that sort of game. And, I could see this one being tight until the end, too, until someone finally gets an edge. It's going to take mistakes for this team to not succeed in this one.
And it's been a few years since Centralia has been able to make a state championship game, but of course expectations are always high for the Panthers this time of year. And the last team that we need to talk about, a game that I was at last Friday, the Valley Heights Mustangs pulled out a gritty win over Sterling, 24-19 in another mud contest. The Mustangs will now take on the exact same team they faced in last year in this sectional round, Medicine Lodge, that knocked them out of the playoffs. Mustangs looking to get to their first sub-state round. If I remember right, in school history, would be a heck of a win for the Valley Heights Mustangs to knock off Medicine Lodge coming up in what will be another wonderful contest on the 11-man side of the bracket.
And, they have had the horses all year long. Jaden DeWalt has been fantastic. The way the offense has become two-dimensional, getting passes through the air and getting players to contribute, maybe not in the scorebook, but offensively away from the ball, making a little bit of a more complex offense. And, last week to me was kind of a mirage because you look at that and two of those scores came late in that contest. This really, for the most part, was Valley Heights over and over again. It was just those two late scores. I still think Valley Heights is a very good team. And, yes, this week they are going to face a challenge. But do you know the game that they're playing this week against Medicine Lodge, the last two teams that Medicine Lodge has faced are a combined 8 and 9. They have faced two teams that are under 500 in the playoffs so far this year. This will be the first test that Medicine Lodge really gets, and I think it's going to be a big test.
As always, you can find our full TVL rundown as a podcast available at kndyradio.com underneath the podcast tab. As always, for Jeff Wirtz of the TVL Spotlight, this has been Max Blasky. Stay tuned in next week because we'll start previewing high school basketball happening inside the Twin Valley League starting the first week in December. You've been tuned in to the TVL Rundown, a weekly comprehensive look at the athletics inside the Twin Valley League. The TVL Rundown is a service of B&D Buildings in Axtell and the Citizens National Bank in Greenleaf.
KNDY.